Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Can I do any B60? I do a Medeco cylinder?
Probably. I mean, that would be a question for Medeco to make sure that they offer the cylinder in the deadbolt that you want. Is the door already prepped?
It is.
Why not just buy a Medeco deadbolt?
Looking for something more decorative. So that was kind of one of the things.
Okay.
On the site, it says Medeco cylinder for Schlage 6-pin. So I wasn't sure if that 6-pin cylinder actually would fit in like a V60 or like an F51A.
Yeah, definitely. That's the question for Medeco. I don't know. I am extremely confident that they do not have a cylinder for either of those locks. Absolutely not the F lock. They'll certainly have a cylinder for the B600. But when you're talking Medeco, you're leaving the world of residential material. So grade 1 and Medeco cylinder capability are going to go hand in hand. You want to do the latter and forego the former. That is probably going to be the problem. But they'll certainly have one for a B600, their heavy-duty deadbolt, which is not very decorative. Now, what I would consider doing is I would probably do a Kaba Ilco deadbolt. It's a little, the projection is smaller, a little bit smaller diameter. And it just takes a normal mortise cylinder, like any old mortise cylinder that Medeco, cuts their teeth on. That's their bread and butter. So that's probably the way that I would go with it. Sticking it into a residential knob lock, you're just going to have to abandon that idea immediately. But they will make a cylinder for a Schlage A line, which is a grade 2 cylindrical, and you'll get it in. Hopefully if you want an orbit design, you're in luck, or some typical trim. And then they'll do grade 1 levers by Schlage if you wanted a lever design, but it's no longer a $40 lock.
Correct. Yeah, they're a little more up there, aren't they?
Why Medeco? Why patented restricted keys?
It's one of, we do like new home construction locks and all that. It's one of the customers. This is what they're asking for. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll ask and see. They do. I had someone in the past that wanted it because that's what they had at their office and they only wanted one key. That was the only other time I've been asked for it. So
they wanted a key that no one could duplicate without their permission.
That, and they wanted the same key for their office that they wanted for their house.
Sure. And their office had Medeco.
Yep. So that's the only other time I've done it. So, but it wasn't in a Schlage. It was just getting a true Medeco lock. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you can accommodate it. The other thing is, if your customer wants Medeco, great. They have about 75% of all of the North American high security cylinder business. Schlage also has, their own patented restricted key systems. And, you can definitely get into what Schlage does as well. Their Primus Everest is going to do that job. It's, it's not the name Medeco, but it's definitely going to be a situation where you are not going to get a key cut without being the right person. It's just not going to happen. What your client wants to do, in my opinion, is not engage you and by extension me. What they really want to do is to work direct with a local locksmith. And and the reason is in a year or 5 or 10 years, when they need service, they go to that person who it's all they do. They cut keys, they key locks, they're a Medeco service center kind of situation, because they're not going to call you in 2 years and say, the 12 keys I asked you for, I've lost them all. And you're like, this ain't worth my time to try to track down cut keys. So that's my opinion about that there should be, when it's
a situation where it's an individual working directly with a company who does nothing but that is the right way to go. And if you get so large, you're working with the manufacturer directly, like NASA or very large installations of the material for restricted keyways. But everybody makes restricted keyways basically, so you can do it by lots of people. It depends on, when you say Medeco though, it depends on what your client really wants. Do they want biaxial, which is 1970s technology, 1960s actually? Do they want Medeco 3? Do they want the current Medeco 4 that was just released last year? It's a rabbit hole to go into, in the sense of what are you really asking for? If it was me, it would be Medeco 4 because that will have the longest patent protection on it because it was just released last year. And work with a local company that they can walk in and get service, because you and I will be long gone in 5 years when they need more keys cut. Because if you can't get the keys cut, your investment in the hardware is, people call all the time and say, oh, I need these key blanks. Where'd you get the lock? On eBay? Yeah, you're not getting any keys. You can't. Yeah. There's no paper trail between you and that original order. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think you're
That's
right.
my opinion. I can sell the Medeco stuff and I can be that person. But when it's a homeowner, yeah, it's a, and then you have to ask them, why do you want this? Because there might be a better way to do it, because your client with the house and the business, that wasn't the best way to do that, in my opinion. I would have
the business key, have the same key their house.
Precisely. And I would have put a multiplex system there where I could have handed out keys to the house, like the housekeeper, and they couldn't get into my business, but my business key would pass both. It would be what we call a multiplex structure. Or however that, and then maybe you had a garage, so you could have a different keyway that was for the landscaper only, but he can't go to the house and he certainly can't go to the business, but that business key, let's call it the master, that broaching passes all the house and, the garage. Anyway, it helps to have a background in locksmithing, to be able to see the future on that stuff. And that's really why I suggest it, because I know what it's like 2, 5, 10 years later to get a key cut.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got you. That kind of brings me to another thing. Occasionally I do have to rekey the multi-point Euro cylinders, and they have the set screw on top of each cylinder to take the pins out.
Yeah, we call them profile cylinders, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever brand this one builder uses, I think it's Windsor Doors, they literally, I fight like 3 out of 5 at least. They strip out.
What strips out?
The set screw or the, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've never had it with any other manufacturer.
Yeah, it's probably an extreme low-end cylinder. I don't deal with profile very often, and I don't like it when I have to rekey them, because you can't see the shear line, and they're a hassle. But no, I have no experience with Windsor. I've never heard of them. And I've never, if I was going to do a profile cylinder, it'd be by Cava Ilco. They make profile cylinders that will go into your Pellas and your whatnots.
Okay.
But generally, the customer's got the Pella or the Armstrong or whatever it is, and he's got the Quickset everywhere else, and just, hey, can you make this key work here? Sure. Or no, because the keyways are different, and what you have, you can't get in that profile cylinder. So you've got to change the profile cylinder, or you got to change everything else. But in the world of high security, you dive into the European market, you will find endless sources of high security profile cylinders, because that is the standard over there, and Australia as well. So you'll find those all over the place. We don't like them in North America because our argument is that because you've inverted the springs over time, those springs will fatigue and you will get a failure in the key itself, because now the springs are holding the weight of the pin itself. And 5, 10 years down the road, I have had people come and say, my key doesn't work anymore, to find that the spring was so heavily fatigued after years. It's a nuance. Who cares? Put a new spring in. But, we don't use them for kind of that reason. We like our cylinders and our keys right side up.
Yep. That makes sense. I didn't know that. So,
Are you a locksmith?
No, we just do home hardware, really.
Okay.
And we key the locks for the builder, but nothing, just lost ball, construction key, that type, you know.
Yeah, you're doing...
When they do multi-points, they supply them, and then they want the rest of the doors to match the multi-points, and none of the multi-points are keyed alike.
Are you doing just Schlage F-Series and you know, when you're doing lost ball?
Correct.
Okay,
yep.
So just, your guys just got to specify, you know, Schlage C keyway when he orders those multi-points. Make sure they specify those.
Well, they do, but then when I go to key them, because sometimes all the multi-points don't match, you know, there'll be 3 multi-points in the house, 3 profile
KD.
cylinders, and none of them match. You're correct, they're all KDs. And it's like, so then I go to key them, and then they literally, brand new set of Allen wrenches, it strips out. And it's
the screw itself.
The screw strips out. Yeah,
that's garbage.
And
that's
it's been
awful.
Probably 10 houses I've done, and every single one has had at least 2 screws per cylinder strip. I actually have to use a reverse drill bit to get it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, what you could, I mean, you get to a point where these guys are like, I'll do them, but just, you know,
I'm at the point where I may just find a new profile cylinder, and I'll just supply you new cylinders.
Well, tell the guy, order him less cylinder. Yeah, order him less cylinder, take your tiny deduct, and then you keep on the shelf some Kaba Ilko profile cylinders with the cam and the lobe in the right orientation. If you imagine a clock, 12 through 1, 2, 3, all the way back to 12 o'clock, they put that, you know, we'd have to order those based on the proper length for both sides and the center, and then the proper cam. But you keep a half a dozen on the shelf, and you say, these things are garbage. I've never heard of a screw like that actually failing. Oh, well, keep in mind, though, if you're not using, you're not doing yourself a favor if you're not using metric Allen keys, because you know those are metric.
I am.
Okay,
I've tried both. I've tried both. Brand new ones, just to make sure it's not an issue with a stripped out one. As soon as it bumps one turn around, like when you go to loosen it, I've even hit it, to kind of jolt it in case it had like some Loctite on it or something. It's just fun.
So you make a partial counterclockwise rotation and then it seizes?
No, it won't even bump. It won't even start.
Oh, I see.
So,
yeah.
It where you put the Allen wrench in is where it strips the actual head itself. So
they probably put a lot of thread lock on that stuff, and Kaba Ilko does that as well. They tighten I think the screw is a 348, so an extremely small machine screw that holds the cam on the back of a cylinder. They have put those on there so tightly that even when I was a young man, I didn't have the hand strength to remove them, and I've wanted to purchase a screwdriver that will tell me pounds of force. Those tools exist just to tell them you don't need 90 pounds per inch to remove this. Their machine is set so high. The point is these people haven't serviced the cylinders that they're making. If Windsor was actually repaying this stuff, they'd know.
Yeah. Like the car manufacturers, kind of,
Sure. Yeah. Well, you gotta hope they're testing. Yeah. You gotta hope the lock guy is too, with the lock people. But
what's the Kaba Ilko number just for the profile cylinders? I know you said they're different lengths. I know, some of them are halves and some are full.
You can do thumb turn only, cylinder only. You can do single, double cylinder. So if I was going to search, well, first of all, in my website, I would simply type in Kaba and then profile. And you can click on like the second item that comes up. And then within there's going to be a how to order document. And it will give you everything you ever wanted to know. Kind of. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. The downside of these is unless it's a really common size, they will have the term lead time. They will redefine our understanding of lead time. I've had people have to wait months for these.
Really?
absolute custom sizes, like a 4-inch thick door. So we might want to run a test inquiry over if you were able to get your ABC dimensions and your lobe position. I can find out, what type of lead time there would be. As you can see, they're not cheap, but they're, if you're doing houses worth, it's a relatively small line, I would think.
Yeah.
But then it's going back to the client and saying, I can't do this. Do you want to expose yourself to that, or do you want to keep taking the pie in the face? And I've many, many times over my career, I just keep taking the pie in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, I will.
How many times does the guy come in and say, "Yeah, we tripped it. You've got to reset the lost ball." I had one customer in Chicago building, thousands of homes over a period of 2, 3, 4 years. My God, man, would you stop sticking the permanent key in there? I'm going to start charging you for this.
I just don't give them the permanent key until before settlement. That's what I've done. So,
yeah,
because we're a smaller company, so I have the ability to not give it to them.
Yeah. I've told the guy, I said, I'm going to teach you how to do this. Don't ever come back in here again.
Yeah,
not with that.
How's that quick set smart key? Oh, it's great.
Yeah, that thing is extremely cool in the sense of the technology. I've taken it apart and I've gotten to the point where, if you like that technology, look at the Schlage SL cylinder. It'll remind you of the smart key. But when you study the history of locksmithing, nothing really, really new is done. I mean, it's done in a novel way, but all the principles in a smart key, boy, when you just go back through the decades, to say the 16th century and look at the pillars of locksmithing, these guys aren't reinventing the wheel, but they're really reinventing the application in a novel way.
Rebranding it.
Yeah, they're taking it in a direction that you someone like me wouldn't ever think of, because I'm not smart like that. And it's inspiring. I know people love that smart key, and I know that it works. However, your lost ball does the same thing, doesn't it? When you think about it, your lost ball, if you want to give a customer, you want to be able to give them a change. Now in China, they have the lost ball principle, but they do it in multiple chambers. So now I can give you, imagine that. I can give you 2 changes. I can give you 3 changes. How many changes do you want? As long as I've got chambers and keys cut the right way, I can give you re-changes. So that's kind of cool too. Why it's Chinese? It's like the way it was said to me is like there's some sort of mandate by the Chinese government that you have to be able to. Maybe it's a spec. I don't know. One of my master keying teachers, deals in the Asian market a lot and says this is a standard in China where the lock comes, but then it's got 3 sets of keys. So it's smart key plus 1, or lost ball plus 1.
That's interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your time and knowledge, and I will keep you in mind on future stuff, and I'll find out what the customer wants to do with that Medeco thing. So, yeah,
happy to help. Just might be easier in the long run if you just say, listen, I'll do the research, I'll tell you the part numbers, but what if I'm not here in 5 years and you've got a house that you can't get keys cut because, that's tied to my account? That doesn't serve anyone very well.
That works.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.